Hello and welcome to Mystic Dog Mama, the podcast for soul-led dog mamas, where you'll discover how to best nourish your dog and yourself, mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Dr. Alexia Meller, a holistic canine nutrition and well-being consultant and the co-creator of the F.E.T.C.H framework. Along with my incredible colleague, Stacy Renfree, my aim is to help you feel less overwhelmed and more confident in taking a holistic approach to your dog's health through integrating evidence-based nutrition with spiritual wisdom. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me for a little March Minisodes series that I'm doing this month. As I mentioned last time, Lucky and I are in the midst of moving. So for the month of March, I'll be sharing some shorter solo episodes with you that are some of my musings that I've had lately and that I hope might be helpful to you. They are things that I've been spending some time thinking about, bringing together many of the conversations that we have here about nourishing our dogs and ourselves on multiple levels. Or perhaps a different kind of conversation related to how we just put these puzzle pieces of health and nourishment together for ourselves. Once Lucky and I are settled, I'll update you on what exciting new things that we are both up to. I'll let you know how Lucky's doing with the big changes. But until then, I hope you will enjoy these little chats directly with you. Okay, on that note, let's go. So today I'm going to chat with you about a topic that comes up quite a bit in this soul-led dog mama community in various forms. And that's the question of how to manage your dog's spiritual life experience, especially during transitions or stressful times. You might not always ask that question in quite that format, but many of you get in touch talking about dog mama guilt and wanting to make sure that you're meeting your dog's emotional needs and also wanting to connect with them at a deeper spiritual level through something like animal communication, for example, where you want to make sure that they're fulfilled and living their best lives. So I thought I'd talk about this with you today because it's something that's very present in my own headspace right now as I navigate a big move with Lucky. I am actually recording this just a few days before we make the big journey, so I thought I'd share what I've been doing to process the move myself and how I'm taking steps to support Lucky through the changes. Then I thought in April I'd share a kind of after episode where I'll be able to tell you about the journey itself, do a bit of a behind the scenes kind of thing, and talk to you about how Lucky is faring and what I feel worked and what didn't work. Does that sound good? Okay, so I love diving into all things spiritual, and it's actually what I structure my entire life around. We are all spiritual beings, whether we're aware of it or not. And what I mean by the fact that I structure my life around it is that I'm keenly aware that we are more than just our bodies and that we are energetic beings having a human experience. And as such, I create space to explore that. I'm aware that the 3D world around me is a projection that's reflecting things back to me in order to expand myself. And I'm also deeply aware of the power of my intentions, my thoughts, and my words, like I talked about last week. That is the true origin of spellcasting. I make decisions and witness things as best I can from my higher self's perspective. But walking the spiritual path is also about facing the shadow, the things we don't want to see, the fears, and all of the feelings and emotions that come up in response to our lives. So when I think about what my perception of Lucky's spiritual journey is, I'm asking questions from a deeper place, and I'm listening from a deeper place, if that makes sense. And I'm allowing anything and everything to come up and be witnessed. As those of you who have been with me for a while will know, Lucky's very presence in my life is magical, and I'm convinced not only was it fated, but he's a major spiritual teacher for me. If you haven't listened to my early episodes where I talk about this, I'll leave some links in the show notes so that you know what I'm referring to. So when it came to making the decision for this big move, I had to really reflect on whether or not this was in the highest good for both Lucky and me, whether it was in my highest good individually, whether it was in his highest good individually and together, and even whether or not our journey together was coming to an end. Now, before you get upset with me for saying that, This was not a reflection on whether or not it was inconvenient for me to move with Lucky. This was a question rooted in a deep honoring of him as a soul, having his own individual life experience, and what his soul wanted next. So I did inquiry work to explore and respect whatever came back, whether I liked that answer or not. I just thought it was important to ask and not assume. So what that looked like practically for me was going into meditation and asking the question, then feeling what came up, and also looking at what would present itself throughout the day. Because like I said, I believe the 3D is just reflecting things back to me. And so synchronicities, signs, and answers would come in a number of different forms. I'm not somebody that necessarily in meditation asks a question and feel like I get an answer. Generally for me, it's that things will kind of show up in my life that I'm recognizing are actually giving me further information or clues to the question that I asked. But that's just me. Other people experience it in different ways. I also work with my pendulum a lot, not only for things like muscle testing, but also for dowsing and asking questions I need more guidance with. If you're curious about using a pendulum and muscle testing, I'm actually thinking about putting together a little workshop. If people are interested, I'll do it. So send me a message on Instagram at Mystic Dog Mama, leave a comment, or get in touch with me at mysticdogmama.com and let me know if this is something you might be up for, and I'll have a think about putting something together for you. So I connected with my inner guidance, asked the question, and used my pendulum to share answers. I did this God knows how many times on many different occasions because I wanted to make sure that I was actually making the right decisions for both of us. Each time it came back positive that this was indeed the right next step for both of us. So that's one way that I've been making sure to, as best I can, honor Lucky's spiritual journey during a difficult transition. Another way I honor his journey is to just flat out talk to him about it. I tell him what is going on, what he can expect. I reassure him that I'm here, that I'll be with him the whole time. I also talk to him about my feelings about it. And I'm very honest about that because there's a lot of uncertainty that we're both going to be facing. And I know that we're going to be fine, but I also let him know, like, there are things that I'm nervous about. But despite that, we're doing this together and we're going to be okay. Dogs are just incredible and they will understand the energy behind anything that you're saying to them. Another thing that you can do is also visualize things and intentionally share these visions and your feelings about them with your dog. So I've visualized being on the plane. I've visualized him being in his carrier at my feet. I've envisioned walking through security and all the things that I know that he's going to experience. And I surround those visions with a sense of calm and love. Checking my own worry is also a big part of this process. If I'm calm, that'll go a long way to helping him feel much more calm and safe during this whole process. Back to spellcasting for a second. Do you remember how last week I shared the importance of taking control of our narrative that we tell ourselves and that we tell about our dogs? Well, during all of this transition period that Lucky and I are in, I keep reminding him just how brave and confident he is. And I keep reframing the stress of this into how we're going on an adventure and how he's going to have so many exciting things to sniff and explore and making new friends. And that actually helps me feel a lot better about it too. Another thing that I've been doing is upping my Reiki practice with him. I've said it 1,000 times before, but it bears repeating. Reiki is first and foremost a self-healing practice that involves operating by 5 principles on a daily basis, not just when you're in a Reiki session. One of those precepts or principles is particularly relevant to this chat, and it goes, just for today, I will not worry. Every time I catch myself in worry, I do my best to come back to a place of calm. In addition, I've been practicing just being calm with Lucky and offering him Reiki when we're relaxing before bed, for example. He takes what he wants and moves away if he doesn't want it. One thing I haven't been doing as great of a job as I wish that I were doing is giving him all the attention that he wants. It's been really, really busy, and I found myself saying to him more often than I like, "Hold on, Bubba, just a second." But I have grace with myself around that because I also have to balance doing the necessary things in order for us to actually go on this adventure. And I'm also going through my own processing emotionally and spiritually. That being said, I do make sure to play, to go for our walks, to just sit and breathe with him, to be as absolutely present as possible. Even not having my attention 24/7 is part of his spiritual journey. Helping him hold and process that, and helping myself release any guilt or shame around it, is part of both of our journeys together. I'm sure I'll have more insights on the other side of this, but I wanted to capture what I'm trying to do right now and what I'm struggling with in case that's helpful for you. Dog mama guilt is real, and it's so wrapped up in conditioning, expectations, being a good girl, being productive, all that garbage. I'm doing my best to be forgiving of myself and recognizing that Lucky and I chose one another, and we chose to navigate these ups and downs and big questions together. All of this is the spiritual journey, not just the happy beach walks. I also think a huge part of honoring Lucky's journey is doing my own spiritual work. What I mean by that is acknowledging and integrating the shadow, recognizing when I'm triggered, doing my best to breathe, to respond instead of to react, to keep up my practices even when I'm feeling short on time. All of that is part of honoring him and keeping myself in the best possible place to be able to handle this whole experience with calm, grace, and strength. And that's what's going to help him feel so much better about the changes we're currently experiencing and the ones that are to come. So that will do it for this little mini-sode. Let me know your thoughts. Did any of this resonate with you? How do you think about and approach your dog's spiritual journey? How do you deal with the stress of transitions and change? I'd love to hear. Leave me a comment, DM me on Instagram at Mystic Dog Mama, or connect with me on my website, mysticdogmama.com. And if you're enjoying the podcast and you haven't done so already, I would be so grateful if you would like and subscribe and rate and review the podcast. It's a wonderful way that you can support me, and it helps to get the podcast in front of other Mystic Dog Mamas and Papas who can benefit from the content and this beautiful community that we are creating here together. I'll see you next week for another March Minisode. Oh, and did you have a chance to listen to our first Fetch Friday episode where Stacy and I talk about all things parasites? What did you think? Let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram at Mystic Dog Mama. And if you haven't listened to it yet, I'll leave a link in the show notes. Okay, on that note, until next week.